This is the Storied Outdoors, a podcast somewhere between Lewis and Tolkien and Lewis and Clark, finding clarity in the stories we tell and the adventures that shape us. Man, we are super excited tonight to have Ben Meadows from Dorsal Outdoors join us yet again. He's been on before. He was on before with George, but now he's come back for a second conversation. He's an avid outdoorsman. He's a storyteller. He's one of the creative. You guys have a pretty good sized team at Dorsal, but I know you do a good bit at Dorsal Outdoors. But you have a passion for fly fishing, hunting, conservation, and you have a passion for storytelling, which makes you our kind of people. And that's why, man, I just love getting to sit down and talk to you. But in this episode, I want us to sort of dive into one of your latest projects that literally this evening for dinner, we had a kind of a condensed time to do something with the fam. And we watched the number 6 episode of A Born Retriever. My son loved it. We're all dialed into the YouTube video. That is I guess that's the final installment of the Born Retriever series. There were 6 of those on YouTube, and they're great. But they follow Riggins, right? Is that right? Riggins
That's right.
is the name, from sort of a couch potato to, man, a full-fledged, like well-rounded upland bird dog. And it is so fun to watch. And man, I have enjoyed every one of those episodes. So I really want us to sort of, as we say, pull up your favorite camp chair to the old digital campfire. And I want to hear a little bit of the stories behind this adventure with your pal. And man, like I told Brian, who doesn't love a good dog story? I mean, I love we are dog people through and through on this podcast. And
okay, if y'all
just
hear
glad
something,
to have
His
you.
ears are burning. Come here, Ricks.
can y'all and
You say
you
hello?
talk about a couch potato? Look at this guy.
There's
He's a
if
big-
you're on YouTube, you have to watch the YouTube video.
And
There's a
she's-
lot of
There we go.
There he is.
Hey,
Oh,
boy.
yeah.
there he
Can you
is.
look
They're
over
the
here? Riggins,
pups.
who's here? Who's here? Okay, never mind. We're done. We're done.
We're
That's all we
done.
get.
We're
That's
done.
what we,
Well,
oh,
Willow's sitting right beside me. She's snoring so loud, so I feel like it's going to pick up on this microphone any minute.
Well,
no,
man, thanks for.
Yeah, no, thank y'all for having me.
Heck yeah.
It's always a joy to be with you guys. Love what you're about. Love the stories that y'all are chasing. Yeah, love that y'all enjoyed the Riggins story. Not to start off with a correction, but I hope you find it to be hopeful. There will be a 7th installment. I always
Okay.
wanted
Awesome.
these to end on a high note. And the 7th will be Riggins and I's second duck season together. So
Awesome.
if you remember the first season, we learned a lot, but we didn't have the metric of success
Yeah.
that most people would measure. Like, hey, did you knock down a bird? We sure
Yeah.
didn't. But in the I don't know, man. The 7th one will be a doozy. I've put it out to our partners who backed A Born Retriever, and I'm just kind of getting their final sign off. It's one of those weird things. We are in a modern age. We got to be careful with dogs and guns and food and kids and all those things. So you want to make sure that the final film is edifying and
Sure.
checks all the boxes. But it's special, and again, no one will be surprised. I'm not giving anything away because y'all probably know where this heads, but Riggins does get his bird, but it is in the craziest story you've ever heard. Legitimately, Riggins and I spent 20 different sessions on public land this year. You introduced me as an outdoorsman. I am just tripping my way through this. I would never call myself a hunter. Barely know what I'm doing, but he and I were learning. And had a really cool moment where it all came together, it all fell apart, and then Riggins' instincts took over. So I'm
Let's
really
go.
excited.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited to share that one because I've joked from the get-go. I mean, even that first film you saw, when we did that, I told one of our partners, I said, "This is not the story I wanted, but man, it's so much better." Because what I wanted to do was just go in the Alabama duck ponds, suffer a little bit like you're supposed to, knock down a bird, watch him retrieve one over water, and boom, bam, look, he's meant to be a duck dog. I always knew that he was. I always knew that he had it in him. But the story that emerged was, this story of getting knocked down and getting knocked down again and getting knocked down and just like crawling along and in a weird way, like chasing your dog's instincts and in a weirder way, trying to give your dog, the best life they can have.
Mm.
Yeah,
Because they're such a core part of our families these days. And
absolutely.
and so yeah, I know I kind of skipped to the end there. Maybe we're doing some Tarantino stuff today. But yeah, that's the rhythm for every single born retriever is that the story that I experienced with Riggins in the outdoors is never the one I wanted, but it was always better. That
Oh,
that
that's
real
awesome.
that those moments were always better than I could have ever dreamed up. I mean, again, like you're looking at that first one, right? Who would have thought that on the last day of duck season, with a couple hours to go, we would knock down a bird, Riggins would send out to get it, and then the bird would dive, and we'd be just left with this gigantic cliffhanger. Like again, that's what you would write. No, a solid writer would write that up. But I can tell you, as the dude who filled up his waders, maybe nearly have drowned in that moment. Uh, that is not the story I wanted. That was not.
Oh gosh.
I didn't want a series. I wanted a film. But it was a cool moment to springboard into this adventure. So no, I will talk y'all's ear off about my dog and the adventures we've been through.
At what point did you realize that there was going to be a series or a story about Riggins?
Yeah, so true to form, about 3 years ago. Oh man, and even longer than that. Sorry, I when I was pitching this series, I had to repeat the story so many times, and now I'm like, it's been years. Wait, hold on. So yeah, we had a little one. So this was probably 2021. So yeah, about 4 years ago. It was 4th of July. And we'd had our first kid, and so we were gonna do fireworks and redneck stuff out in Alpine, Alabama. And Riggins has never been scared of fireworks. He's never had a problem with thunderstorms. Like guys who have those dogs who can't handle it, like my heart goes out to y'all because that's rough. I mean, I've heard of dogs chewing through doors because they can't hang with Alabama thunderstorms. So I get it. But Riggins has never been that guy. Like we'll have a tornado warning and the dude's four paws in the air, asleep on the ground, looking like a doofus. Like that's Riggins. And so we went out for 4th of July to shoot fireworks in this farm field, and my wife was very persistent about like, hey, like I know we have this baby and we're occupied, but like make sure Riggins doesn't get hurt. And I was like, what would he get hurt from? And she was like, well, you know, dogs are scared of fireworks, and if he runs off into the woods, like we'll never get him back. And I was like, well, a couple things. Riggins has never bolted. He's too much of a he's a homebody. He doesn't want to run that far. And then the other thing, I was like, he's not scared of noises. But she was just adamant, like, take care of Riggins. So when we start shooting off fireworks, I actually grab his collar and hold on to him tight and just like, you're staying with me, buddy. And as we start firing them off, he is pulling on my hand. And I was like, gosh, what are you doing? And then I realized I looked down and he's pulling in the direction of the fireworks. Like he wants to run
Oh
to him.
yeah.
And I guess I'm a bad husband because I look, see my wife's not looking. I was like, let's see what he does. And go, boink, and
Sorry,
drop that
honey.
collar. Yeah, sorry, honey. Drop that collar to see what he would do. Because again, like our favorite part about Riggins, he's this just 93 pounds of doofus. He's just a goofy boy. And so I was like, let's see what he does. And he sprints. I mean, and that's the one thing, he has good get up speed. He can't run forever. He's built like a log, but he's got good sprinter speed. So he gets up fast. They fire that, cannonball shot. And right as it goes off, he freezes right where they shot it off,
Hmm.
and where it pops, he's watching to figure out where the shells are going and like is kind of following this constellation. Now, me where I sit now, this all makes sense. But to me back then, I was like, that's weird. Like only my like 7-year-old self would be looking at the sky trying to find the army man parachuting down after a firework, right? So what is my dog doing? And literally he's like trying to find the shells. He finds pieces, tries to bring them back to me. And at this point in my life, I grew up. My grandfather won the Grand Trap in shotgun. Like
Oh wow.
and my uncle was on the cover of Field of Stream, in the '80s. They are a really, so this is my mom's side of the family, really good shots. I did not get those genetics. Don't be impressed. If you've watched any of the Born Retrievers, you know I'm a terrible shot. So nobody be impressed here. I was just good trivia to put some texture in the story. But I never hunted. Like I taught myself to fish when I was in elementary school and middle school, and I loved that, and I was just content with fishing. I didn't do deer hunting. As you know, we're all Alabama dudes here. Some of y'all would call me not a real man because I didn't do deer hunting.
Yeah.
But I never learned, so I never tried. So you would be Ben, comma fisherman, and there would not be comma outdoorsman, comma hunter. There's nothing past fishing for me. But at that moment when I saw Riggins chasing those shells, I was like, I think from what I've seen on the internet, I think he was meant to be a hunting dog. And I think I've made a terrible mistake because he's because he was probably, I guess I would make him like 6 years old at the time. And there was like a little bit of grieving in that moment of like, oh man, did I mess up his life? And then of course, I have a small, infant. He starts screaming. We throw dog baby in the car. We drive off, and I don't think any of it. And then I was going through this discipleship process at church a couple years later, and told my buddy Kyle about how crazy my dog is in this fireworks show, and literally like hand to chest, he's like, "Stop. He's meant to be a duck dog." And I was like, no, here's the thing, buddy. All duck
Let,
hunters are
let me tell
psychopaths. Let me
you.
tell you this. All duck hunters are psychopaths. Ben don't do 3 a.m. Wake up calls unless there's a baby crying. Mm-mm. We're not doing that crap. And he
Oh
kind of like,
boy.
you can insert any movie quote you want that fits right now. It's just like, he looked at me like, you're going to do it. And I was like,
Mm.
I'm not going to do it. He goes, do you love your dog? And I was like, damn it, I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna do it.
So, so yeah, so he literally, it really does. I passed the baton of the story off to Kyle because he grew up in Florida doing a lot of teal hunting, wood duck hunting. Um, did it while he was getting his undergrad at Alabama, so he knew a lot of the duck ponds of Alabama from his time in college. He actually lived in Colorado for a little bit and moved back. And so this was actually his re-entry into duck hunting. So I think he had some skin in the game. Like he wanted to get back out in the duck
So
ponds.
here's his reason.
Yeah, here's a duck dog that's been, abused by his owner for never getting to go out there, and he's just gonna come out and chaperone real quick. But it was this really fun journey, and I learned a lot of the kind of ethos of duck hunting. I think I remarked to Brad about this that there's actually not a context in male friendship of like, hey, let's go slam 24 ounces of coffee on the road for 2.5 hours at 3 a.m. Like, there's not a like no one's gonna be like, hey, let's get a men's group together and do that. Like that's not normal behavior. But in duck hunting it is. And what I realize is that like where some of the conversations we have as men in very rare forms will be like around a bourbon or around a beer or around a meal. Like there's not a like a good we're going into the middle of nowhere, West Alabama, 2 hours, let's talk about your life coffee moment.
Mm.
And so I learned to really treasure that. And it
Mm.
was this added benefit I never asked for, but it was really fun because Kyle and I would pull in other young dads and say, hey, do you want to go hunting? And they're like, I haven't hunted since I was a kid. Yeah, I'll go tomorrow. And just it's kind of just this very like redemptive revolving door of just like if anybody wanted to go. I mean, we wouldn't see anything, or
Mm.
we'd get like 2 shots a time, a hunt or whatever. But it was this very redeeming part of the Riggins story was all the people that Riggins started to connect me with all along the
Oh,
way.
good. I love that.
Um, and so, yeah, so dove headlong into that duck season. My wife is a champ because she put up with the nonsense. Um, I mean, there is this, I will say as a young dad, there is this beauty to duck hunting. Like wood duck don't fly after 7:01 a.m. Don't lie to yourself. Go home. And
Get some
so
We
breakfast.
might have another group come in.
yeah,
No, you're not.
oh, you can
No, you're
set up
not.
that lie, yeah, but you're just gonna sit for 2 hours and your coffee's getting cold. Um, there was this thing where like a couple times I'd be home for breakfast when the kids were getting up. So it was like this feeling like I got out of jail free moment of like, oh, I'm getting to the outdoors and I haven't really removed any family time doing this. But yeah, that was the genesis of the Riggins story. And to your other point, Brian, about like when did I know it was a series? I didn't. I literally started bringing the camera equipment because Kyle, he's like, you like to tell stories, and he's like, buddy, you're about to trip over a really cool story that you don't even see in front of your face.
Wow.
And I got to give again, it sounds like I'm like the Kyle, cheerleader story, but it is like he gave up a season of duck hunting to just coach me in Riggins, to train me in Riggins. He learned how to run a camera to get really good B-roll. A lot of the good stuff you see in that Born Retriever first episode, that's Kyle. Getting really good stuff of Riggins working or Riggins, every time we missed a duck and Riggins would chase after, the invisible duck. Um, but he gave up a lot to be there, and it wasn't really until about halfway through that I was like, wow, this is actually I was able to step outside my body and be like, oh, this is cool. Because like if you I mean this is kind of weird to say out loud, but if you look at what Ben the character is doing, he's chasing his dog's dream, not his own dream. Like again,
Mm.
I think duck hunters are psychopaths. I mean, I do it and I enjoy it, but it's a weird sport. Like again, to like the early mornings, the just being like my wife was like halfway through last duck season. She's like, "You seem different and not in a good way. Like you're not sleeping, you're not like your brain's not working like it should." Um, but that's the thing is that like I was in the middle of that and didn't realize that that was the story and that
Mm.
there was a pretty cool thing there. And so, thankfully with some of the dorsal experience we've had, I knew to like, well, let's get a 1 minute cut down of what we're doing.
Mm,
The story, the characters, the essence of what we're doing. Um, and I started to farm that around to partners because I knew I wanted to try to do this as big as I could. And that was when it was really interesting. I mean, even folks who are like, we have no budget, but this is, a really cool project, can we be involved at a low level or whatever? It was really refreshing because from the dorsal angle, like George and I joke about it all the time. When we pitch fly fishing films, the main thing we see is a door slammed in our face. That is the
mhm,
majority. It's a 90% of the time, it's a no. It's a
Mm.
I've seen this before. This is not cool. Or, so to get that kind of feedback was really surprising because I was like, and I didn't find it, I didn't think it was that interesting. I thought it was me and my dog were going hunting. But a lot of folks saw, that it was a dog focused story. And, getting Riggins to live his best life as he enters into, his later years as a lab.
Mm.
So the series part of it, Brian, only came out, after really I was having duck season withdrawals. Basically I was dying inside. And and it just happened that at some of those partner proposals finally hit, and duck season was over, and I was like, well, like what else can Riggins do? And the spoiler alert that there's not a spoiler because you can just go watch the videos. There's not much you can't do. There's just a very fun can-do outdoor spirit at him. That's been just. I mean, my wife and I joked like the worst thing that has happened is that we have enriched the last parts of his life, and we've enriched a season of ours that would have been
sure.
very very different without this.
Yeah. I love that I mean, you go to Dorsal Outdoors' YouTube page and it's fish, 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 fish. And now there's this section of Riggins and this born retriever. And I think you guys were careful to word things on your website about it's not just about like fishing, although you
Hmm.
do primarily that, but you're really drawn to story. And I think that's one of the thing that really that I enjoy about our friendship and about like our connection
Mhm.
over the past few years is as the more I get to know you, the more I realize how much you really are passionate about telling stories. And it doesn't have to be, slow motion fish jumping behind a waterfall. It can be, it can be anything. And you found a great one here in Riggins, and it's been a lot of fun to see that sort of develop and you guys, doing something different. And what it is cool. I think it's refreshing.
Yeah, and it's weird. I mean, this kind of gets into the weeds a little bit, but it's the way that online sharing algorithms work. This is the worst thing you could do. The way that algorithms work, you need to master a niche and
Mhm.
stay in that niche and nail it. And if you ever move outside that niche, uh, you know, bless you, because the algorithms don't know how to deal with you. And so there's a great bit of just luck here that I have to say is I think we need to be careful when we think of trying to measure stories by metrics. But for the Riggins story for months sat with just a couple hundred views on YouTube. It went nowhere. It's almost like you walked into a you know a film showing for fly fishermen and you're like, hey, you want to see some duck hunting stuff? And everybody's like, thumbs down, no, get out. Yeah, boo.
Boo.
Like, literally, unsubscribe, unfollow. What kind of Kool-Aid is Dorsal drinking?
Whenever you're at the concert and they're like, now we're going to play something from our new album.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly,
exactly.
exactly.
No.
No, please stop. Yeah, we're gonna play stuff from their new album with our new singer. You're like, no, I'm going home. Um, so there was I wouldn't call it risky because this is all online, but yeah, I remember, after months and months of filming, feeling really passionate, thought it was a really cool adventure. It goes up and it's just like,
Womp
no,
womp.
I was like, and you can't help it as someone who, you know, wants to see these stories thrive. It's hard not to take that personally. But I don't know, man. About 3 or 4 months in, it started to take off. It may have been the blessing of a garbage duck season this year. And so everybody was angsting trying to find some duck content.
It was
And
a garbage duck season all the way around. Everybody that I talked to, I heard so many people say the same thing. I'm not one of those guys that goes up to Arkansas and gets to hunt. Maybe I will. I think there's a potential for us to get that chance this coming year or this coming season. But I've never been up there. All I know is the North Delta and the Mississippi Sound, which is not great hunting to begin with, but we have a
right,
good time.
yeah,
Um, but everybody that I heard that did go to Arkansas, it was not a great season, even up there. So
no.
interesting,
No,
interesting.
so there's a world that's like maybe everybody burnt through their favorite duck hunting films and they accidentally, stumbled upon my pudgy boy Riggins, and that's where we took off. Yeah, that's the thing. Anyone who tells you that they know how this stuff works is a snake oil salesman and a liar.
Mm,
There's just a great deal of right place, right time, and luck, and I just want to name that and not claim that
Mhm.
because I remember for months being like, well, Ben, this is going to be some interesting conversations with your partners.
swing, swing, and a
Yeah.
miss.
Where they were like, this is cool.
Just a bit outside.
Exactly. Well, no, a friend and probably in y'all's network, Adam Hudson from Blue Line Flies, he was like, dude, think about what you did. He's like, Dorsal, right, is a predominantly like alt species champion kind of channel, right? It's red eye bass. It's largemouth bass, which to most fly fishermen, that's an alt species. Hey, we Southerners, we know it's the species, but to fly fishermen, that's an alt species. Like, name one film where y'all have ever done trout, and I'm like, and he's like, so you're already in a weird niche of saltwater fly fishing and warm water fly fishing, and you just put duck hunting in front of them. Like, what did you think was going to happen? And like, I love having friends in the industry who are like, again, he wasn't being mean. He was just like, hey, buddy, like, what did you think was going to happen here? And I was like, you know what? You're not wrong. And then like when it did take off, I told him, I was, hey, better to be lucky than good. And he's like, no, it was a good story, but like, yeah, still lucky.
Oh man, I think there's some crossover. There's a lot of people who do both.
Well,
So
I would love to think there's more of that, but again, without getting into like putting on my tinfoil hat and raging against the tech machine, algorithms don't reward this kind of behavior.
no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
You need to
yeah.
stay in your niche. You need to stay doing the same thing so that the algorithm can find the same 100 people, same 1,000 people, same 10,000 people who will always like that content
Yeah.
and always give them the same thing. And if you ever stray outside those boundaries, God bless you. But I just to back up your point, Brad, one thing that George and I at Dorsal have talked a lot about is like, look, dude, we don't want to be the kings of tailing redfish videos. Like that we just want to be a partner and a visual display of great stories. Like that,
Mhm.
we just want to be involved with great stories. So whether that's chasing, Matt Lewis and MB Meeks around the streams of Alabama, and them getting after a red eye slam, or chasing my pudgy dog around a quail field. Like I want to, I want to work on the stories that keep me up at night. Like that's what I want to do.
Mm.
And
And
I
so I
think
just,
in the long run, I think that's going to beat the algorithm is a good story. Because man, once somebody sees a good story, then the algorithm is that, dude, I texted that link to two or three of my buddies. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Mhm.
Like the algorithm
It,
can't contend with that. You know,
it's very much a long game. But I
Mhm.
mean, you're helping me put on like clown makeup right now and like making me to believe in the mirror that I'm gonna turn this corner because it has been this moment of like next year, next year, next year. But we have seen, I mean, to be truthful, we have seen some things turn around recently, that have been very encouraging. And I give George a lot of credit. It's like we don't chase algorithms. We just do the story stuff that we think matters, or the stuff that we're passionate about, or
I really and I really
Yeah,
appreciate. I mean, I
I do
think that's
too.
what I appreciate about you guys.
yeah. I mean, the,
I
the
do.
thing I think I don't know, man. I think we could. This may be just me lying to the camera, but like, man, if we would just make some meme content, I feel like we could really grow, but I just refuse to do it because I'm not good at it. It's not who I am. There's so many more funny people who are really good at like meme content. And so like why would I like try to change who I am just to, spin the algorithm machine a little bit? I think at our core, we just want to be involved with good stories,
Yeah,
kind of the same thing that y'all are after, right? Doing these
Yeah.
these digital campfires. Um, same
Well,
same kind of essence there.
yeah, you
yeah.
look at C.S. Lewis. I mean, he wrote children's fantasy. He wrote sci-fi. He wrote Mere
He's all over the
Christianity.
place.
I mean, he didn't stick to a genre,
Yeah.
and the world is a better place for it.
Yeah.
I think that if that's your purpose is to feed an algorithm, then there's people who like to do that. That's great. Make a living out of it. But if your goal is to tell good stories, then do whatever you feel led to do.
hmm
I
Yeah,
mean,
find them.
go
Yeah,
make your own genre.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what George and I have been talking about a lot recently is like we want the people who love dogs,
Yeah.
who love fly fishing, who love spin fishing, who love hunting, and will not be annoyed that we dare do something else. Like, that line of like stay in your lane. I'm like, what? I don't have a lane. Like, my,
what
my
if
lane.
somebody's going slow?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I'm just like our lane is story.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
That's great.
like I mean, this was really random, but it's like, um, so my father-in-law, has beat cancer 4 times. His move after beating cancer the fourth time was like, I want to plant a vineyard, and we were all like, with what estate? And he's like in Alabama, and we're like, wait, what? And he's like in, basically Childersburg, Alabama, and all, the whole family's like, what are we talking about? And then of course we all get co-opted into the free labor of planting and building this
like you do.
vineyard. Yeah, like you do. And then there's this beauty, right? There's this vineyard that's producing red wine, like palatable, great wine
Wow.
here in Alabama.
Huh,
And they're
huh.
inviting people for tastings every weekend. And so here's where I'm going with it. Stay in your lane, Ben. You only make fly fishing films. No, no,
No.
no. I rent the best camera equipment I can find, and I sit my mother-in-law and my father-in-law down, and I say, let's tell your story.
Mm,
Because these are the stories that matter, right? These are
yeah,
the
I see
story,
it.
like, these are the crazy ones that that matter. And so, anyways, that's my soapbox of staying in your lane. And if you have any folks who are listening and trying to like basically algorithmize themselves on LinkedIn, like it's like to hell with all that. It's that's not the game.
Yeah.
Be to who you are and what you're good at. Um, and don't get. It's really tempting. Again, y'all know in my other life, as an economist, I'm addicted to statistics and empirics and things like that. But there's a nasty, pernicious side to them that when you start to try to measure who you are
Mm.
by
Mm,
metrics that are not really real, to be fair, um, that's a slippery slope. And I'll just say this just for the sake of the record. Uh, some dorsal films perform better based on the time they're posted. And if that controls how well a story is received,
yeah.
how little should we give credit to algorithms and likes and things
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that for validating art and validating character and validating who we are? Like it's a drunk gamble every time you post these things. And so to give it more credit than it's due is silly, but I know we all do it, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's impossible not to in that uh, space to not measure. Did y'all ever read your kids Max Lucado's story about puppets who gave each other stickers? Do y'all remember that one?
Yes. Oh, yes, the
I
dots.
don't know that
Go
one.
pull that one off the
That's
shelf.
a,
It predicted Facebook
oh my
probably 15
goodness.
years beforehand.
It
It's about
wrecked
a
me, man.
Dude, it's
Like,
about puppets, Brad, who go around and give each other stickers, and they count their stickers to let them know how
How good
well
they
they
are.
are. And again, it does the sugary sweet like Christian book story thing of like at the end, like, no, Jesus loves you more. I've always thought about that Max Lucado story. It's like, no, that's the internet,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah.
We all run around as puppets and say, put your stickers on me so I can count how loved I am. And it's like at the end, like we're talking about putting stickers on puppets.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Um,
just recently, I guess, three-quarters of the way through with Jonathan Hyatt's The Anxious Generation,
yeah, yeah,
which is pretty,
unnerving.
yeah, it really is. And I just think like I love, the idea that you're talking about is let's pushing, being willing to challenge the algorithm to go, you know what, I'm not going to be defined by the algorithm. I'm gonna make good art. Um, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and again, I'm not gonna lump myself with an artist. I have a lot of compassion for artists out there because art takes so much time, and an algorithm takes 30 seconds,
Right.
And so it's
Mhm.
like how what a weak translation for how much work goes into art, and then it lives on social media. But again, I think to merge. I don't know if this has been done before. Merge what we're talking about, Max Lucado and the anxious generation. Like, there's a problem here, right, of
Mhm.
measuring our self-worth based on matching algorithms for photos and videos. It's just
Yeah.
problematic.
I've
And I
been,
don't want to say with all empathy that I do it. Like, I just don't
Sure.
be. I'm not holier than thou. I don't look when our stuff bombs. I take it personally.
oh yeah.
Like I'm like I'm telling my family, give me a 10-foot radius. Daddy's upset about dumb things.
Oh man.
Man, the name of that book is You Are Special by
You're
Max
special.
Lucado. Yeah.
See, if
You
I'd
know,
led
Yes.
with that, y'all would have tuned me out because it sounded so sugar
no, man,
syrupy. But
I know that book. That's a good one.
it's
I think
it's
about it. I've been looking at this kind of this concept of like comparing,
hmm
comparison.
hmm
And the path that God has for me is not the path he has for you. And so
hmm
why should we be measuring and comparing
hmm
life and success and
Mm,
things? We're not
yeah.
in competition with one another.
hmm
There's a competition, but it's not for between me and you. It's between our souls.
Yeah.
It's for our soul. And there the fact that this algorithm sets it up as a competition is is completely contrary to what we should be doing as Christians, is to do the thing, do the thing that you feel led to do, that you're equipped to do, that you've been specifically designed to do, and don't worry about the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a humility in that of like saying that you're going to carve your own destiny, or what James says, like, tomorrow we'll make such and such a profit, right?
Yeah.
That's we do this with our posting strategies and our algorithms, and like we assert how productive and good we will be in the future. And it's just like, I think the most healthy thing, and I will say that it's a daily struggle. So I hope nobody thinks that like I have it all together, because I'm the last person on earth who does. But like, the more open-handed I am with stories, the better results, the better that they are, of like just being like, there are some stories that are a 3-minute story, and there's some stories like Riggins that are a 40-minute story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could spend a couple hours really trimming it down. Um, but there's just a little bit of freedom of just being like, no, this is what the story is, and just letting it be there. And then like truly, um, I think there's a not to hyper spiritualize what I'm doing, because I think at the end of the day, I'm just trying to use the tools and talents that the Lord has given me. But um, there is this moment, right, of when you push out something that you've created, whether it's a sales pitch, whether it's a film, whether it's a Excel spreadsheet, if you are saying this is going to make me whole, or people's reaction is going to make me whole, or like you're basically saying I've got control of this wheel and I'm going to like make my destiny. I just feel like as a believer, like you don't own anything.
Mm.
It's everything is a gift. And so when you can go, here we
Yeah.
go, open hands. There's just some freedom in that. And like, I mean, as much as I was bummed that the original Riggins film like just bumped along the bottom, I like, there was just a freedom of like, well, that was Riggins' story.
Mm.
That was our experience going from couch potato to duck hunter in 4 months. Like that was our experience, and I got a lot of meaning out of it. And it sucks that, YouTube and Instagram didn't agree. Um, but at the end of the day, like I didn't have any regrets, you know.
Yeah. They came around.
And it did come around. I will say again, I always want to put the like cherry on top. It came around, and it was cool to see it take off. The best part wasn't the likes and shares and all that stuff. It was the comments, man. We get all these really sweet and wholesome and wonderful. I got one guy who slid into our Shopify DMs, which I didn't know was a thing. Like he literally sent us a Shopify DM message, and it was so wonderfully heartwarming.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome. I love that.
yeah. My
Man,
my favorite one though is a guy who wanted to, I think, hunt his golden retriever in Hawaii after he watched the film, and I was like, "Well, dadgum, I want to watch this. I want to be part of this."
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I was like, "I don't know what you're hunting in Hawaii, but I'm there. Can I come?"
man, you imagine the B-roll on that footage. My goodness.
Yeah, it
Wow.
wouldn't take, it would not take many sponsorship eyeballs for me to jet over there. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, speaking of B-roll footage, like just from a like total geeking out side of
Be
the
careful. Be
the tech,
careful.
I know,
We're
but the
going there.
technical side of this is you have,
Eight.
you said
The answer is 8 TB.
7 films, 8 TB.
8
Holy,
terabytes.
Can
And
you
it was
break that down and maybe length of time?
no, because some of it's kind of high
Yeah.
resolution stuff.
Okay.
But
yeah,
but yeah, like I would
just
say,
hours.
if I was gonna, yeah. Oh, no, 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 no. It's probably, for the first one, there's at least 24 hours of footage.
And
Like
the final
For
result
in
was
40
40
minutes.
minutes, yeah.
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 But we play this game. Like so George and I at Dorsal joke a lot. What makes some of our stuff tick? Burning batteries, burning footage. I realized, thankfully, with some wise advice, that battery costs have plummeted, and so have storage costs. So the days of being like, well, I better not take this picture because
Got to conserve. Got to
yeah,
conserve.
I only have 23 left on my, Fujifilm roll. That's not where we are. And so many people live in that box still. And again, someone just threw their phone through the window, like Ben's not a creative, and maybe I'm not, but it's just like I felt that freedom of like, batteries are not real, storage is not real, so rip it up, baby. So if we are,
Volume.
oh, but like, so what we would do in the field is we would have an A cam that would be set up on a tripod, and it would roll for all 1.5 hours of setting up, hunting for what, the 20 minutes that Woody's fly, tearing down and,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
crying in our coffee, like every time. Um, and then there would be the B-roll that Kyle would with the secondary camera pick up, and then I would merge the two. Um, but no, it was a mountain of footage, and there was this moment like when I was editing it, I was like, it was almost like trying to. I don't know if y'all remember when you were like 15 or 16 and your stomach's still hungry, but your mouth is tired. You're just like, I don't want to eat anymore. Like I hate being a teenage boy. That's how it felt like editing. I was like, I know there's so much good stuff in here with Riggins, but I don't want to do this anymore.
I'm just so
It's
tired.
exhausting.
That's
Yeah,
so funny.
because in my process, you know, footage comes in, it gets stored properly, it gets indexed where I'm going to go through every single second, tag the parts that I think are usable or important, or have audio that's important for developing the story, and then we can go towards telling the story before we edit the story, before we fold in music, and before we tighten the story, before we do sound effects, before we do graphics, before we do color. So yeah, I didn't want to eat my vegetables. I was so sick of it in
I
about
bet.
February. But you know, there was these wonderful sprinting cycles I would do. And again, wonderful wife. She'd be like, "I'm going to bed. You do your psycho stuff," and I'd just be hammering away
Yeah. What was
at the editing.
what was something that was, I mean, like, because you do enough of that and you hunt enough and you spend enough time, in the water with a dog, something funny, really funny is going to happen. And it may or may not have made it in the film. What was one of the funnier, like, you guys just died laughing?
Oh man. So it just Kyle was laughing so hard he couldn't hold the camera up. So we were hunting in West Alabama and we got three or four groups of woodies to fly through one time. And again, I forgot. We had a buddy who went on this hunt and he was just as bad of a shot as me. So Houston, if you're listening, you got called out. Um, but
Sorry, Houston.
sorry, Houston. I
Houston,
mean,
we have a problem.
Sorry,
we
not
had
sorry.
we had a pair that flew in 3 feet above the water and just could have kissed our gun barrels, and we still just like Elmer Fudd, this way, that
Just
way, this way, that.
whiffed.
Oh, so bad. But anyways, so we have those two groups go through every time. Like Rigginson's not a perfect duck dog. He will release on a gunshot because he's so amped. I mean, it's been like,
Sure.
give him some credit wherever. Yeah, he's right there. Give him some credit. There he is. There he is. Little
There
potato.
he is.
Little
Um,
tater.
he's been like on 26, 28 duck hunts and has seen a bird. Ooh. 10% of the time. It's not been good for Riggins. Um, so he releases on the gunshot, which I know is not safe, and I've tried to work with him on it, but at the end of the day, he's excited. We're not pointing guns that way. We're usually sky high, to be quite honest. Um, but we have these three groups that pass by like back to back to back to back. So much so that like I thought Riggins was scaring them off, but I learned this season Woodies love moving water. They want to think that like there's a party going on that they're missing out on. They're like teenagers with FOMO. And so I think it was on the third group. They come in, we whiff them. It's embarrassing. Kyle's like, guys, what are we doing? And then we all see Riggins like, so Riggins, if you look at him, like right there, like he is 1/3 just butt and then 2/3 dog, and that thing floats. That thing is
Oh
a
yeah.
flotilla junk
Oh
in the
yeah.
trunk. And so when he swims, he's kind of serpentine, and I laugh every time because I think it's just funny that his ass floats. It just literally you could put a drink on that thing, and he would just deliver a beer right there. Um, but he was working. And like Kyle's like snickering. He's like, y'all suck at hunting, and the dog is swimming laps. Like, what are we doing? And I was like, he's got something in his mouth. And he's like, Kyle's like, Ben, that's not a duck. There's literally, you can't see anything. And we're like, Riggins, what do you got? What do you got? He comes in, he's got like a big old mouthful. We're like, what do you got? And I was like, I'm actually kind of worried it's like a dead rat or something. Spits out like 6 shells. He had collected all the shells.
He got all your brass up.
Yeah, he's the best conservation dog you've ever seen. And we just like he hauled because he had picked up all these shells.
Leave no trace.
Hey, leave no trace, man.
He put them in a
Come on, guys.
pile. He put them in a pile, like arranged them. And
Come
then
on, guy.
and then as only as a dog could, looked at me in Houston like, I hate y'all. And then just walked off in the woods. And like Kyle's like, dude, you just got told by your dog. Like that sucks.
Just
And he just
disdain.
disdain, just sashayed his little butt into the woods. Just,
Like, I'm gonna go find me a duck.
disgusted,
I'll kill my own duck.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
just disgusted at our behavior. But then there was one more other time, probably the other funnier thing that he did. Um, we were like, well, will he chase a shell? I mean, again, so you see that duck hunting's going really well. So we have a spent shell, and so Kyle throws it, and Riggins is like following it. It hits the water, and then it kind of tips over, so it starts to sink. And so Riggins goes down to dive, like he's on like he's got his feet on the muck, so it's probably like a foot of water. And so he just puts that muzzle down there. Now Riggins, he's a lab, he loves water, but still doesn't. Again, he's a goofball. It didn't compute that he was underwater, so he puts his head underwater for probably 10 seconds, and I think he probably tries to take a breath, and then you see his head go, and he just comes up and can't figure out where, and like sprints back out to the woods. And I was like, he literally did not realize he was underwater. Poor fella did not had no idea.
he freaked out when he realized
Yeah,
it.
he was like, where am I? And stuff. Anyways, there's been quite a few moments like that. If you watch the Quail film, his buddy Sturgill, so that's George's dog.
Yeah,
Uh, Riggins and Sturgill are 9 days apart. We didn't plan that. Like literally,
that
he
was so awesome, man.
yeah, we got Riggins early. He got Sturge late, and yeah, and they're buds. And so, the first quail that Riggins retrieved, they both hold it in their mouth
Yeah, that was
and like came
amazing.
back, and like it should be a sweet moment, but like both me and George are like, could y'all just act normal for once? We're at Purcell Farms, like we're in a nice place. Could y'all not be
We
who
can't take
y'all
y'all
are?
anywhere.
You're
Yeah,
embarrassing
and
us.
and I literally look at the guide, and I just looked at him. He goes, "I have never seen anything like this." And I was like, "Look, dude. I mean, you invited Riggins out here. I don't know what to tell you."
And Sturge was like, I got the retrieve, but my boy got the assist.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I gotta help Riggins along. Well, no, my favorite part. So because Sturgill's a German short hair pointer like yours, Brad. They're so driven, and
Oh yeah.
sometimes Sturgill will be so focused on the next bird, he'll be retrieving one and then drop it and think about the next one. And so Riggins always loved that because he'd run back like, "Hey y'all, check out this
Look
quail
what
I
I did.
found."
Look
And we're
what
like,
I did.
"Hey Riggins, that was a quarter retrieve. We saw what you did. Like,
Yeah.
stop it."
That's an assist,
That's
buddy.
an
That's an
assist.
assist.
Yeah, don't be proud of yourself.
Like Mike Allstott, handing to him at the goal line.
Headed to
Exactly. 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 But
Oh, you're
then
you're embarrassing me in front of
and
the
for my
Purcell
friends,
people.
yeah,
These are nice people, Rick.
these are nice people.
That's
And
amazing.
they really were like think about trying to approach an elite wing shooting lodge and say, "Hey, I have a derpy 93-pound yellow lab that I want to take
Dirt.
quail hunting." Like they're
Derpy is maybe my
That's
favorite, my favorite description ever.
you could visualize that word.
yeah, and it's Riggins' face. Now the question
Oh,
again, you may have consumed enough Riggins content. We in our household debate what Riggins' inner voice sounds like. I say it's Kevin from The Office. That's who I think Riggins is. We have a family friend who thinks it's literally Goofy from Disney. Like that's his. But notice that no one's like refined, like
Liam
British.
Neeson.
Yeah, no, no, no.
it's like that meme audio is. It starts out and it's like a German Shepherd, and it's like from my name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, and then it just spins over to this other derpy dog. He's like, my name is Jeff.
And that's Riggins.
And we
That's
die laughing every time we see
Every
those
time. Those
videos.
get me every time.
Oh
because
man.
I mean, again, and that is like again the dog who forgot he was underwater, and the dog who, yeah, tries to retrieve a quail side by side. I mean, he is a goofy dog. So no, no, all along the way we've had a lot of just really funny moments. But they've been also been great too. I wish I had, there's a lot of healthy regret that I think bleeds through this narrative of just that he should have been on the water a lot more than he was.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um, and that was a personal thing. That was my fault. He can be obnoxious like on a red eye stream because he like wants to go to the next hole and he wants to swim but it's like once you learn your dog's tick, it's like, okay, let's go blow up a pool that doesn't have fish and let him swim and throw the stick, and then you got your best bud there fly fishing with you. Like, what's better than that? And I just realized the more we did it, the better he behaved. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm eager this coming summer to go back out and, without a camera and just enjoy those moments with them. Because I think that was the other like dark energy that fueled this series is that like, he's, you know, if you get 10 years out of a lab, you've done something
Yeah.
special, and he's 8.
Yeah.
And so there's just this, I don't know, and that's what I reflected on that last film, Brad, of just
Yeah.
like thinking about what does it mean to give a dog a great life, and what does it mean when your own personal like narrative or your own personal story um is so tied up in trying to like minimize your own pain that to prevent your own pain you start eliminating sources of joy in your life.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I don't know. In that last film, I was like, well, we'll go full send and we'll break this down because it is what happened with Riggins. I did this weird thing, and I talk about it in the film, but it's like I started to hold his mortality against him.
Yeah.
It was like if I didn't love him to the fullest, I was saving myself some grief whenever he did pass away. And that's foolish. And like I know better than that. But it was just hard. I think when he was a puppy and as he's growing up, it's like, oh man, this is gonna really suck when we lose Riggins because with a dog you're assured of that.
Yeah.
And I just yeah, the blessing of this series has just been like, no, we're gonna go, we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And maybe the question you didn't ask, Brad, but I'm gonna give it to you anyways, is probably one of the most like redeeming and joyful moments was when I stuck that pig of a trout with Riggins because I thought it was a 6-inch trout. I did not think I had actually hooked that thing. Um, the footage of it is pretty bad because everybody's freaking out. Like all of us to an extent are emotional because we realize what has happened, right? The series that we all just because we all love Riggins, we've all been a part of. There's now this anchor point, this slob of a rainbow that I don't deserve. That Riggins is just, and he was cool the whole time. He was about as normal as a fly fisherman would be, jumping up and down, splashing around, making hoops and hollers. But he never was jeopardizing the fish. He was never
Yeah.
jeopardizing the tippet. Um, and then like as we have this fish, our kids spill out of the house because they hear the commotion. They come down in their PJs and they all, my oldest son, touches. He's like, so that's a trout, and I'm like, I don't know if you'll ever see one this big again, buddy, but yeah, that's a trout. And just it was this huge moment, and almost like it almost was. I don't again. I don't want. I don't ever want to hyper spiritualize everything, but it was this gift. That fish was a gift because in the moment, everything kind of came together.
Mm.
I remember Kyle was filming. He's like, I can't stop shaking the camera because I'm so nervous. And like, I was like, I thought it was kind of endearing at the time. And then when I edited it, I was like, holy crap, I can't use this. He was shaking like a leaf. Like it was just da, 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 da. And it's just, yeah, it was just a very special moment. And that's been the cool part of doing this series is like, we've gone on adventures that I would have never dreamed. We've met people that I never would have thought of.
Mm.
Um, I had an Arkansas Duck Lodge take my call because they saw the rigging stuff. Like,
That's
who
awesome.
who the heck am I, right? Like for real. Like, we're talking about the guy who likes to fly fish for ladyfish right here. Like, I don't belong in Arkansas. Um, but there's just been so many open doors through the Riggins project, and so then having that moment was just that
Mm.
was a thing. And so I'm glad that you think that's where the story ends, Brad. That means I did a good job um,
Well,
wrapping it
man, when
up.
I was first watching that video, I was like, dude, what's fixing to happen to Riggins that I ain't heard about yet? I'm about to kill this man.
Yeah, yeah, I
Don't
didn't.
do this to me, Ben.
Man.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, but again, when I started pondering that story and in my notebook, that was the energy I thought about. I was
sure.
like, when we all get dogs, we all lie to ourselves and say they're going to live forever.
Mm.
Um, and then there are folks like me who do this really bad dance of like, well, I'll minimize, you know, the amount of, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to minimize the emotional investment here because that'll help the sting at the end. And And
Don't we
it's
do
foolish.
don't we do that with people ultimately too though?
I didn't want to go full send in the film, but that's what I was trying to reference to.
I mean, we will in this. I mean, I think so. Because what I liked is that was such a deep reflection, not what you guys normally do,
Hmm.
and it was a direction I really appreciated, you know, about what you did in that series, and that was a deep reflection. It made me think. I was like, man, just so many lessons that we learned from our dogs that are good. And you're right, we do that with our dogs. But then I thought, I was like, man, I do the same thing with folks, that I'm around every day. And
I
I mean,
didn't want to ever swing too hard to turn people off in the film. Like if
sure,
someone turns it off, that you've lost the ability to tell them that message.
Mhm.
sure,
But that's I was never a member of Young Life, but I love this term, earn the right to be heard. And that's
hmm,
where in the outro of that film, I decided like let's be a little more punchy.
yeah,
Because I think you're right, Brad. I think about a grandfather you had or a dear friend or something like that. We do. I mean, I think actually country music talks about this a lot
yeah,
of and but it trivializes like ah ha ha like I brushed off the people I love and I'm fine because I got a beer. And it's like no, like there's something deeper here, right? You pushed off the people who make you your best self.
Mm.
Because we as humans, I think and this is for this podcast, we can talk about it at a deeper level. You know, I think we sometimes feel like we don't deserve gifts.
Mhm.
And actually at a call that I tried to answer in that film, and I don't think I did it justice, but our new pastor at Oak Mountain just nailed this concept for me. If you remember the story of Ruth, Naomi is this bitter character. Her name even means that. Just a
hmm,
bitter, bitter, bitter human being. If you read the first couple of chapters, it's just she's unsavory, just not grandmother material. Let's just put it out there. Um, and then at the end, right, she has the promised child from Boaz and Ruth. And our pastor pointed out that like the scripture is very, very pinpoint, like the baby's sitting in her lap. They want you to visualize that the gift is sitting there in her lap. And it's kind of a dark, very Southern Gothic take, but our preacher was like, notice she didn't push the baby off the lap. And everybody's like, whoa, easy, dude. But I thought about it. I was like, no. He's like, and that's what he was doing. He's like, a lot of us, when God gives us a gift, we push it off our lap
Mm.
for reasons whether we feel like we don't deserve it,
Mhm.
for reasons we feel like we lie and say we don't want it. Our pride, maybe that's the answer to country music. Our pride says that I'm not gonna, I don't need this. And the call I tried to answer in this film was that Riggins was a gift and is a gift. He's right there again, probably making a mess in my backyard. But he's this gift to my family and to my boys. And I chose for the first 6 years of his life to push him off my lap, basically.
Mm.
And that's really sad. Um, and we do that with people. We do that with friends. We do that with dogs. We do that with family members. And there's some holy mourning that needs to go into pondering that.
yeah,
And that was the gift that I got myself from just sketching this out of just being like,
that's
hey,
good.
Ben, you did this.
I'm
You
glad
know?
you told that story, man. I'm
Yeah.
glad you leaned into that for real because I mean I think even to the point of like you said maybe this is silly, but this big trout that I caught, was a gift. Certainly it was. I think the Lord is. We act like He's up there withholding, things from us and doesn't care about those little moments when He
Yeah.
does. He
Yeah.
does care about those little moments,
Mhm.
and I think to this is our 10th season, and so this episode follows several other episodes that we got to record down on Dauphin Island,
Mm.
and we've had plenty of trips just didn't go as planned, just like you guys have, and we've just had tons of them that the weather just didn't work out, and fish didn't
Call it
we
what it
didn't
is.
really
The majority didn't go the way you planned.
you
That's the
know,
way it goes.
you don't catch
Majority,
fish,
for sure.
and all this and that and everything you can name under the sun. And we just ended up having just a great day.
Mm.
It
And
could
I
not.
want
It was absolutely awesome. Yeah.
it was, and I just think that was a gift. That was not skill. It wasn't skill, and and I don't want to call it luck. I would rather call it that's our Heavenly Father giving us a very kind gift for us to enjoy and cherish.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That I got to cherish with Brian, that I got to cherish with Hank Hershey and Hugh Cheek and Blake Walters. That man, I'll
Hmm.
cherish forever.
Yeah.
And that was a gift and a great lesson and great conversation. And so to think it's something simple, as just a silly, big trout, big fish. No, that was like a sweet gift that
Yeah.
enhanced that story to a place that you couldn't have written it like you said. You couldn't have written that story like that.
No, if y'all want to know the way the sausage was made, I actually really thought like doing wild trout with Riggins would have been that's the story I wanted to tell. Like let's go
Hmm.
catch 1,000, brook trout up in the mountains and again, God had better plans. And that's been this there are these misty moments for me where I just kind of like every project I'm like, oh, all right, I'm not alone. Like there every
Mhm.
time. And that's why I also
Yes.
felt like it was really important to me um, if people had fallen in love with Riggins' story and what he was doing, then it's like, okay, I've earned the right to be heard, and I want to point out something that we do with dogs, and to your point, something we do with people,
Mm.
and we do with a lot of things in the Lord's kindness. And I think it's different for. I don't want to ever tell people how they're going to feel, or what they should feel, or where it comes from. Um, but I know for me, there is this like emotional control kind of thing of like, well, I don't need gifts. I'll be my own man. And it's just like, that's not only not good, it's sinful.
Yeah.
Mm.
And there's a much better path. And so, yeah, there's this freedom too. Once you're like willing to look around and see the gifts that you get on a daily basis, there's some freedom. There's some wind in the sails, that you get from that. So,
That's
yeah,
good.
it was a special film, and there was just, I mean, there was even silly things like, the intro of the film is, a fly dangling at 1,000 frames per second, and it was
That
because
was
I rented it from another project, and it literally was shot back over here in my backyard, because at 1,000 frames per second, there's no light coming in, so you can't tell it was in a washing bin in my backyard,
it
but I
looked
was like.
amazing.
It was so much fun. I felt like a physicist for a second. I was like trying to like draw things with water bubbles. And then like
No, it
I
was beautiful.
brought it into the editing. I was like, oh, this is an intro section. So there's just a lot to that project where it was like there's something more here. So it was really, really special. And for me, I can't remember who told me this. They're like, um, I shipped them a copy and they're like, well, I didn't want to cry tonight. So thanks for that.
We get those a
And
lot.
yeah, and
Hit
I
me in
was
my
like,
feels this morning.
yeah, but I will say like there's been, two projects that I've always had to just push back and just been like, and let the tears flow. And it was this one,
Mm.
because the segment that's very personal to me is all the iPhone shots in the middle that
Mm.
shows how wonderful Riggins is. I'll get misty-eyed right now. How wonderful Riggins is with my boys, like,
Mm.
and how hard it's going to be when he's not there with them because they just think he's their bigger brother. So that iPhone stuff means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Like there's a segment where Riggins jumps up on the bed with my little
Yeah.
boy and to read at night. That is a learned behavior. Riggins did that when we moved him to his big boy bed, and Riggins was like, "Oh, this is great. I get to
Oh,
snuggle.
I fit here.
Yeah, I fit here." But he now knows
Just
it as a
gonna
command.
scooch in right here.
Well, no. So Tatum usually does the bedtime story with them. And so if I say, "Hey, Riggins," I'll see if he'll do it. Riggins, you want to read? Yeah, he just got up. Um, you want to read? He'll run and jump in Barrett's bed and snuggle up
Oh
with them.
yeah.
So it's not really a command; it's an offer, and he takes it every time.
Yeah.
Um, but that section always has ripped me up. And then it's kind of funny. This is not the last project Dorsal will ever do, but the first one we ever did was a project called Just Like Mac, which is about our buddy Tommy, who
Yeah.
lost his uncle to cancer. And I remember when we cut it for the F3T, they wanted it happy, slappy, and aspirational. And then when I got to cut my version, I was like, we're gonna talk about like
Yep.
the
Mhm.
pain of losing Mac because it's a much more
Much
beautiful
better.
story.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
love
because you now
it.
realize why Tommy does what he does. And there was just a moment where it when it finally kind of left the editing desk, it sucked the wind out of me, and I was like, this is what a great story's supposed to feel
Mm.
like.
Mm.
And I will
Yeah,
say,
that was a good
like
one.
some of our stories shouldn't be great. Some of them should be just like, hey, we went and whacked a bunch of redfish with a ball.
Yeah.
You know, we acted like a bunch of hooligans. It was great.
Or one
Um,
guy can't catch any fish.
or
Poor Dan.
we're gonna make a global series out of Dan. I don't know. I think I should do a permit film with him just to rub it in one more time.
Poor old
Um,
Dan.
poor Dan.
Man, so Ben, you guys are we you're dreamers, you're great storytellers. These there seems to be this longing to tell great stories, whatever it is, and maybe that's like you said, that's the algorithm for the future. What would be something what would be something you would dream of telling? Like what's the stories that keep you up at night? You mentioned that earlier.
like that I haven't gotten to touch yet.
Yeah, yeah, that you
Yeah.
haven't gotten to touch.
Man. Um, yeah, y'all can cut the silence in the podcast edit. That's actually a great question because the sad answer is that it's like I feel so full, man.
Mm.
I've been given so many stories um just by my life. Um we'll find out if it's super cringe or if it works. And see, in the last installment of A Born Retriever, I connect my experience playing football at Ole Miss to duck hunting. And it's because there was a visual of a football going through the uprights that I thought would look really good with some footage of a duck flying between two cypress trees. So it started with an image, and then I thought the story fit really well about what does it mean to fail and fail and fail and fail again. Um,
Mm.
because that's what it was. That's where I learned to fail often was playing football. Um, but no, like aspirational stories. Um, I think I love a personal narrative. I love meeting people who have overcome. There's one I just don't want to jinx it, but there's one I may be f filming a dog aspirational story about a little black lab who lost her right eye to glaucoma, and she's a mean duck hunting dog and a sweet family dog. And I'm like, again, to your earlier point, who doesn't love a dog story? But now we're talking about dog overcoming, you know. Um, and I think I remember George and I early on when we started telling these stories, we were like, we do not want to be the guys who are like, I went to the end of the earth, but no one else did. It's like, oh, shut up. Like, because one, those have been done since the
Yeah,
1800s, so
yeah.
they're not novel. They never have been. Um, And so I think I just find this really wonderful resonance um, with kind of these great stories. I don't know. I sometimes feel like a used car salesman that I'm pulling only people I know and trying to sell their stories. But it's like I've been enraptured with the stories that are around me. So Brian, I'm doing a horrible job. Y'all have fun in the editing bay on this question, but the stories that are in queue that I'm excited about. One is about a buddy of mine who I got to go through an intense discipleship process with, and he, like me, had a lot of kind of crazy, traumatic stuff. Where mine happened in late high school, in early college. His happened when he was a young boy, and again, and it centers around his mom. And there's not a lot of young men out there who have been abandoned by their mothers. There's not a lot of young men. There's not books written about. Hollywood's got the deadbeat dad thing knocked down perfectly,
Hmm.
but for moms, there's not a context, and so there's not really a safe place for men to go with that. Um, but he and I got to go fly fishing together. Um, and what ended up happening was his best friend wanted to take him fly fishing. And it was just almost like you're like, this sounds like the Riggins series all over again. And yeah, it is. It's seeing there's a deeper story going on and letting fly fishing or the outdoors be the vessel for it. And what I think that story does really well is talk a little bit about kind of the modern crisis of masculinity. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to overcome trauma. What does it mean to be the buck stops here when it comes to generational trauma?
Mm.
And using the outdoors as the landscape to tell that story.
Hmm.
And
Love it.
I hope that one's as powerful as I feel it will be because it'll go from Alabama to Kentucky to Alaska. It's all been filmed. I just have been chasing this goofball around and haven't had time to edit that one, and that makes me sound like a terrible human being, but it's just the truth. Um,
Only got so much time, man.
yeah, it's hard as a young dad. It really is. But there's that one. There's a story about my grandfather I've always wanted to tell. So my grandfather, I didn't find this out until I was on a youth group trip in Leadville, Colorado, where I was staying at a hostel with all the youth groupies. We were going skiing on Bottom Dollar, and I found someone who did not like my grandfather. And I was like, my grandfather was the best man of all time. Do you want to fight right now, old man? Let's do
Let's
this.
throw down right
Oh,
here.
let's do this. I'm 16 years old, but anyways. And I called my dad on a flip phone as we did in those days. And I was like,
Oh,
Dad,
razor.
yeah, baby. I was like, hey, Dad, why would anyone hate granddaddy? Like, he taught me to fish. Like again, every granddaddy's a mountain of a man, but mine's always bigger, right? Um, and I called him, and my dad goes, "Oh, son, that's easy. He integrated the schools in the Delta of Mississippi."
Mm.
I was like,
Oh, there it is.
okay. There's another story where my grandfather apparently the Tennessee basketball, so the Vols came into town, and Oxford was still very segregated at that time, and they tried to prevent them from coming in the Baptist church where he went. And someone called him, on the landlines, and he was a deacon. And as the story is told, doors were nearly kicked down, and he's like, these gentlemen will be having meals here. They will be having showers here. We are to take in someone who, like, their bus broke down. Oh, no, 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 the bus didn't break down. No, they literally were playing at Ole Miss, and there was nowhere where the bus was allowed to be
Mm.
because that was how backward Mississippi was.
Wow.
So I don't know how to approach that story. I think there's been a really cool development that George and my cousin and my brother know. We went fishing in the marsh, and it turns out that my brother, who is kind of this unwilling fly angler, has always been chasing my grandfather's shadow, and he always wanted to be involved with, my cousin and I's fishing trips with my grandfather. And so we were filming, and that story came to light, and we all just kind of our jaws hit the floor, and we were like, well, we've got to figure out how to piece that together. So.
Cool.
What a cool story.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I don't have the historical footage to do it justice. I want to be delicate and honest with like telling that story, but yeah, that's another one that it keeps me up at night because I want to tell it and tell it
Yeah.
well.
Mm.
Oh, that's great, man.
So, anyways, those are some things I'm thinking about. But yeah, your classic question, like I think what Brian wants me to say is like, I want to go fish for Dorado in Bolivia. I want to catch
Oh,
you know
I want the Ben version of that.
okay. The
That's
Ben
I was
version.
not looking for Belize or Alaska.
Okay,
I
but
want the because I know you and you are going for the deeper story
yeah,
and I trust that with you and with what some of the stuff you're putting out. And so that's what I want. I mean, that's what I look forward to.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this, and this is not, this is me being genuine and not trying to blow smoke because we're friends. But when I went to my son and I went to the showing of the Fly Fishing Film Festival, the
hmm
was it F3T or whatever down here in
hmm
Mobile, um, there were, out of that whole group of films, there were probably only two or three that had stories of real substance.
Hmm.
hmm.
Whereas y'all's was hilarious. I mean, that's funny, and every angler can identify with Dan, right? It was funny, and like there, people laughed, and people like really received it, and I thought it had a good reason to tell the story. The rest of them felt like we're just filming people catching fish.
Hmm.
Like there wasn't a lot of depth.
Slow motion backcast through a waterfall.
I mean, yeah, it made me think, what's that guy's name that makes those parodies? Like it felt like all
Hank
of them were
Patterson.
Hank Patterson. It felt like the majority of them were that, and it wasn't real substance. And I know
There's
this got to be a challenge, when that's what you're doing, and
yeah.
can it always have substance? I don't know, but
I don't
I
know, man, but
feel
there's
like,
always a story. There's
yeah,
always that's the thing I'm hell bent on is like there's always a story. There's not, and this maybe answers your point, Brian. I don't believe there's a single person on earth who's uninteresting. You can show me the most blasé from Office Space character, and we talk enough, and there's a thread of adversity. There's a thread of overcoming something. There's a funny Danism. Like there's
Mhm.
everybody has got a story.
I
And
think
so in the
I,
production process, it can be like to give the some of these films you saw, give them credit. It could be that they were a 40-minute piece that got cut to 12 and the
Yeah.
pieces don't fit anymore. And so
Mhm.
you're just left with the pretty shots in between them. It could be that, it's hard as a filmmaker. Sometimes the stories are right here. They're just right here, and you
Yeah.
just miss them because you're like, no, the story is about. Well, I mean, oh, here. I mean, I'll tell on myself. So Dan's Pain one, the one with that sequence where it's hilarious. There's hundreds of tuna jumping, and the only thing he can hook is the back of his head. That film project was supposed to be catching sailfish, free swimming sailfish on the fly, where they're chasing these bait balls, kind of like you see on Instagram now. And I'm not bitter. Okay, I'm very bitter. That's what we were supposed to be filming. A really crazy, something people haven't seen moment, and the story was right there, because Dan's always been that character. Like if anyone was going to break off a fish, even if it was 100-pound tippet, it's Dan. If there's anybody who was going to see three-tailing redfish and find the one way to hook it into the marsh grass and then kiss them with the fly line and scare them all, it was Dan. And so like the storyline was always there. And it just I wish I could take credit for it, but I made a trailer. This is before we were like having these F3T hits. I made a 1 minute trailer just to troll Dan. Like I sent it to it was like on the group thread. I was like, and it was like, here's Dan. And it was with that same like funky beat, bump, 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 bump. Dan sucks at fishing. And it would show this moment of Dan just falling apart. And then like, see Dan cast, and it's a bad cast. See Dan hook, and he's like tight. See Dan break another fish off. And like we all just laughed. And he called me like a couple days later. He goes, dude, do you think we could ever make a film about how bad I suck at fishing? And I said, brother, I got terabytes. So and that's where Dan's Pain one came from. And I think that gave us the inertia to
Yeah. No,
chase
that's great.
after chase after these stories, even if it's like, kind of these everyday adventurers.
Yeah.
Well, you said you talked to, everybody's got a story. I love that. But I do think that sometimes it has to be mined. Sometimes it takes somebody like you to identify that in somebody else and to say, this is a good story. You
Hmm.
should tell this. And I think that's what you guys do so beautifully. Um, yeah, just keep up the good work, man. Thank you for
Yeah.
putting good stuff into the world.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do have one ambitious one now that you said it. And so Kyle, who you know from this duck hunting film, he is an ultra runner, construction engineer, wonderful dad. Every time I see him with his kids, I'm like, man, I got to be like Kyle when I grow up. Um, just an all around great dude. But he has it on his heart that he wants to go bow hunting for elk. And I was like, well, that's a story, like so.
Hmm.
So there will be kind of ambitious, and so that one, for me, again, I want to do the collision of his everyday goodness as a father and trying stuff that's really hard.
Yeah.
He enjoys 100-mile runs, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like he's on
Yeah.
crutches the next day. He's that kind of guy, but he loves that really tough stuff. So again, we don't know. I mean, you got to pull all these permits. He's walking me through all this crap we have to do for it, but that may be an ambitious thing that we chase after. But again, it's a personal story. It's yeah. Everyone's got a story. Everybody's overcome something, and you just need to sit with them long enough, and they'll tell
Mm,
you.
that's great.
That's good, man. How can people that are listening, what's the best way that they can support what Dorsal Outdoors
Oh, they
does?
can send an all caps email to Mark Zuckerberg and tell him, I'm kidding. Um, gosh, if I could rip up an algorithm right now, that's what I want so bad. Yeah, yeah. So you can find Dorsal Outdoors. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram. If you're feeling really lazy and you just need to do a Google search, just do Dorsal Outdoors. There's not another one.
Yeah,
And you can, as y'all said, you can find dog stuff. You can try find people stuff, and you can find a whole lot of fly fishing stuff here in the South.
it's good stuff. Well, subscribe. We do, and it's fun. It's always enjoyed tuning in to see what you guys make, and appreciate the good stories that you make. And certainly, man, if you're anybody that's a dog person, would just really enjoy the Riggins saga. Speaking of dogs, if you're on YouTube, you're watching. There's a very comfy snoozing dog right there.
But hey, Riggins is waiting for the next flyer. Riggins, Riggins, who's here? You come the wrong way.
There he is.
Here he is.
Oh, we gotta see him.
Come here. Hey, can you come up? He's like, it's bedtime. No, it's
He's just
bedtime.
like,
We're
no,
supposed to go to
you
bed.
come to
Oh,
me.
there we go.
There he
Yes.
is.
Hey, what's over here? What's over here? Can you look? Nope, nope, no. Okay, thanks for kissing
He's
me.
like, no, I'm gonna love you.
You well, and it's like every time I'm like, oh my gosh, you have more white hairs on your face, dude. Stop getting old.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh man.
love
Who
it.
doesn't, man? I love me.
He's a good boy.
Love
Good
me
boy.
a good dog.
Well,
Ben,
thank
thanks
y'all. This
to
was a lot of fun.
heck yeah.
Appreciate what y'all do, and yeah, let's keep on telling the great stories, guys.
Mm.
Well, yeah, I mean, because that's the untold stories are oftentimes the best stories to be told, right? That's why we got to tell them. So we hope these conversations, tonight's conversation, I definitely hope people are challenged and encouraged. For starters, to not take for granted the people that are around us, to not take for granted the gifts that we have, just because it may seem like a small gift, it doesn't mean it can't be from the Lord. The Father loves to give good gifts, and sometimes it's a tank of a trout to tell a good story, and all the time, for us in our house, our dogs, man, they welcome us when we come in the door, and they are gifts, and we're definitely dog people. I'm sure there may be some strange people that love cats, but we're not those people. But yeah, just be inspired, be challenged to write stories and share some adventures in the place we love to call the Storied Outdoors. Hey, because that's where good stories happen, right?